Hello, welcome to a quick video walkthrough of this picture that I drew for the Amiga art contest run by Tenmark and Vicky Pixel Vixen. It took about 10 hours total, it turns out, once I edited all this together, so this is obviously massively fast forwarded. It's me, I'm not normally in my videos recently. Drew it all in PPaint, so without further ado, this was actually for an art prompt. Which one was it? Beyond the Grave. If in doubt, add tentacles. Actually remove the tentacles. This is the same extra half bright 64 color palette that I've been using in my game graphics. Now I say that, but I ended up using less than 32 colors from it in the end, so I switched to 32 color mode halfway through. You'll see that happen through the video. It's just me running Eagle Player in the background and switching tracks. The music in the background right now from Sperris. I might be wrong. Song name Castle isn't very specific, is it? I'm gonna pause this for a moment. You could look at this picture as part of a sequence. I've been drawing sort of portraits of my character Sophie from my webcomic. I did one as a desktop background in 4 colors. I did this one, and while I was drawing this one I realized that I could do a much better version of it for a later prompt in the month, which was Demonology. All of the problems I'd had with PPaint in earlier videos, not having them anymore. The more I use it, the more I'm having different strange little issues. I notice occasionally a random pixel of the secondary colour will appear, and it doesn't seem to be anything to do, and occasionally that too, lines. I do find using a graphics tablet, pausing it again for a second, using a graphics tablet, it's way easier to end up with accidental input, and that's why you need multiple undos, because in Deluxe Paint, with your single undo, if it registers a press that you didn't even make, then that shunts your actual change out of the way, so you can't go back anymore. It doesn't happen that often, but it happens good few times an hour, I'd say, where a weird coloured pixel or a strange line will appear because it's not quite work, but it's still worth it. Messing with skulls. It's this first pass at the skulls. The reason I'm including this picture in here is as I use these skulls in the final pick, but I polish them up quite a lot before they get there. Now this music is from Fury of the Furries, which is an absolutely lovely game. Still holds up, although it plays much nicer at 60 Hz. Dithering. Now, yeah, redoing the lighting on both sides, because if I just mirrored the skulls, it wouldn't look right at all. Pretty much nothing in these pictures is symmetrical, despite the fact it looks like it is to begin with. Now, I wasn't capturing when I did the sketch layer, which is frustrating. I didn't realise it was going to end up as something I was taking fully seriously, so as soon as I knew, I started capturing. I've actually drawn ram skulls quite a few times. I've been drawing most of these, I think I was streaming it at the time when I was drawing this stuff, until I decided that I wanted it to be secret. Yeah, so feel free to come to Mixel's Lab on Twitch and watch me draw random stuff. It won't always be on the Amiga, but a lot of the time it is. Yay, Shadow of the Beast. Now, I don't know why all my Shadow of the Beast music says it's by, I'm not going to be able to pronounce his name, Yogia Ligendal, considering it's clearly by David Whittaker, but whatever. One thing I do like about how this is turning out at this point and by the end, does a good job of showing off this weird grey ranges I did. They're not straight grey. Got lots of weird tones in there, but put them together and they work nicely. Now I think if I was to spend longer on this picture, which I'm probably not now, I think it's done, I might dither the backgrounds more than I have, but probably not. They look okay as they are. This sort of creepy skull creature thing, it's pretty abstract, but he's turned up in the comic a few times. See there, that's the only mirroring I've done of those hands, so all of the detail and stuff is done later, so it doesn't look mirrored anymore. The reason it's got such a funny file name by the end, I could count, but I think it was the 18th main version, and I'd usually do 3 sub-versions of each of those, so lots and lots of variations. More Shadow of the Beast. Still not by Yogia Yindradhan. Oh well. Graphics tablet still working very, very nicely. Very, very glad I got it. The more I draw in PPaint and DPaint as well, the more I appreciate it. I think I'm getting to a point now where I might actually be faster working on the Amiga than I am in Sprite or Pixaki, partly because it doesn't have layers. It does seem to speed me up, which sounds ridiculous, but the more complicated it gets, the more time I can spend tinkering. That really doesn't make much sense, does it? There are a couple of things you can do in Pixaki which I would absolutely love to be able to do in this, but oh well, that's a story for another day. That's the little sort of snaky necks, you can't really see them underneath the extra skulls to make it look like they aren't just floating there quite as much. Those sort of spidery legs going in the background. At some point very soon I realised that they're not going to be visible if I do them grey. So I decided I'm gonna do them in the bone colours. Just like that. Yep, this is where I realised that I don't want any jaggies on the entire picture. I actually did keep jaggies in some places where it enhanced the 3D effect, but overwhelmingly I didn't want any, so I anti-aliased everything by hand, which takes forever. In fact, I think most of the picture is doing that. Most of the time in this video is me just fuzzing up edges. That's me seeing how many colours are actually in use and how many I can reduce it by without it affecting the picture. Now, Shadow Beast 3 music now. Hope everyone's doing okay. I think this is the point where, yeah, I found a way of making PPaint crash. Found a way of making PPaint crash consistently. So that was me switching to Deluxe Paint for a couple of minutes just to do that thing with stencils. I wanted to pick up the leg on the left and put it on the right. For some reason, and it only seems to be in EHB, when I selected certain color ranges, it would fully crash. Have to reboot the Amiga style crash. So that sucks. Suppose I should file a bug report. Still blows my mind that PPaint's still in active development. Creepy finger points. Even more Shadow of the Beast 3. I think the picture looks slightly more 3D when I hadn't detailed it as much, but oh well, it's not like I can undetail it. It's the part where I'm experimenting. Do I want to have different colours going on? And I try it a few times and I always decide, nah, no, red's fine. Let's just leave it red. Now, dithering something like this is kind of interesting because obviously you want to use the mid-tone between whatever is going on, or an approximate mid-tone, and whatever's behind it. And because the red thing keeps going behind, in front of both brown and grey and almost white, it's these at least four or five different colours to anti-alias the pentagram. No, it doesn't want to be yellow. This is the sort of detail which is most important not to just outright mirror, because it just looks so obvious. I spent so much time umming and ahhing over, you see on the hand on the right, it's got these little highlights So I basically have a shiny hand on one side and a not shiny and a matte hand on the other, and I couldn't decide between the two. In the end, I went with shiny. This is the point where I realised I'm actually using a canvas size smaller than my overscan area so that I can put my music player at the top there and not have to keep scrolling up, sliding the screen up and down to get to the track controls. So much pressing F9 and F10 to get rid of the top bar and the sidebar. I do appreciate how similar PPaint is to DPaint in terms of things like keyboard shortcuts. Spent a long time on these pointy fingers. Yeah, shiny. Works well. Right, hilariously, we're only at the halfway mark. How is this possible? What am I doing? I'm shading fingernail still. Removing more aliasing. No, pink is not a good... Yeah, eventually went with darkening the bone colour. There, see that pixel that appeared there? That's one of those stray ones, which I need to always be slightly careful of, because they just sort of appear sometimes. Even more Shadow of the Beast. So much fiddling with the nose. Yeah, the point where I decided I was going to use the lightest the lightest tone for highlighting purposes. Oh, I've got to fix something over here. Even more Fury of the Furries. Fixed. This way lies madness. There really aren't that many. You see the shade that I've used for her skin, there's only 2 colours lighter than it. Well, 3 if you include the sort of yellowy white. So to do any sort of highlights, I have to do pretty extreme dithering, but I think it worked okay in the end. Fury of the Furries got re-released on consoles as a weird Pac-Man game, which didn't make any sense to me at all. It's just like none of the defining characteristics of Pac-Man are involved. It's got 3 or 4 different colours of furry. You could switch between them, and they all have different abilities. It's a bit like Lost Vikings. Makes absolutely no sense for it to be a Pac-Man game. A while back, it dawned on me how many games there were back in that era where you were either a furry ball or just a blob. Kind of strange. Here I'm wondering whether I should put background details near the bottom, and then I decided no, I shouldn't do that, so I got rid of them all. Only one way to find out. Now, is this where I spend quite a long time on the skulls? I can't remember. I thought I did that later on. Yep, adding in this extra shade. Eventually you'll see me messing around with their eyes ever so slightly. I wanted it so that the skulls all looked like they had ever so slightly different expressions. It's very subtle, you wouldn't necessarily notice, but they all have slightly different eye shapes. Which obviously doesn't make sense. Skulls shape doesn't change when you have different facial expressions, but so much dithering. I'm really glad that this art contest exists, because I think I learned quite a lot just from this one picture. So I wouldn't normally spend this long working on a piece of pixel graphics. I think everything from this stage onwards is pretty much just cleaning up. Oh, the absolute worst thing I haven't done it quite so much recently. I pressed the keyboard shortcut, my muscle memory, for save file, and then just act like it's saved when it hasn't. I've lost quite a bit of work on the other picture by doing that. I was like, why? Why? It's so annoying. There is a save keyboard shortcut on the Amiga. It's a completely different keyboard shortcut to what you're used to on a modern machine though. What was I doing here? Oh yeah, I was picking up my little signature thing from my other picture. Oh, getting rid of jaggies, changing the skulls slightly. In a moment, I'm going to do the hair highlights. Monkey Island. That was weird. My other computer just started doing things. It's gonna be one of those days. then I'm like, yeah, there should be highlights in this plat. Yep, almost finished. Well, finished. I could probably add more detail later. But that's it. Here's the final piece. Thanks again to Doug, and Vicky. Good luck to everyone else who's entering stuff. It's good to see someone's process. Well, I think so anyway. I like watching this sort of thing. See you next time.